Hey everyone, I am Allegra Stein. Welcome to the weekly coaching recap. I run a mentorship membership called Misfit to Maverick. You can learn all about it at the link below. And every Tuesday is an open mentorship call where coaches get one-on-one support with me in a small group setting. And during those calls, all kinds of questions surface. And I ask people who are there to capture their insights on small little digital Post-its that are then shared on my Jamboard. And in fact, I'm going to show you this time. Let me open it up here. Let me share my screen really quick. And you can actually see the Jamboard that surfaced from the last session. There it is. Isn't it beautiful? And this is what I'm going to be referencing as I share this little highlight reel where I'm just going to pick some of those Post-its and let you in on what some of those conversations were with hopes that it helps you on your coaching adventure. But before I get started, if you would like some of this support yourself, if you're left with a question about your own coaching practice, please consider joining to Misfit to Maverick and coming to next Tuesday's call where I can help you with whatever it is that you're working on. All right, here we go. Let's see. One of the first Post-its that jumped out to me is, okay, there's this tool called the Stadium question. I learned this from Tad Hargrave, and it's a very helpful exercise in really narrowing down who it is that you might want to talk to, run a conversation project with, do some coaching with. And the way it works is this. Imagine that you are on a stage, okay? You're on a stage, and I am down in front of you right now and saying, hi. And behind me are, let's say, 10,000 people, just 10,000 random people that have been gathered in this stadium behind me. And I am saying to you, hey, I'd like to find you 100 of the most perfect people for you to have a conversation with, to maybe do some coaching around, to lead a workshop for, right? We need to narrow this 10,000 people down to 100. And the way you're going to do that is just filter them out. Say, hey, step forward if you are a volleyball player. I don't know, like, what are the filters that you could put in place? What are the stadium questions that you would ask to narrow down who it is that you're interested in working with and creating some alpha tests for, leading a workshop around, interviewing as part of a conversation project? I think as coaches, we start to think, well, I could work with everybody. I could work with everybody. So what that means is that you are interested in working with and talking to all 10,000 people in the stadium right now. I think when we get really concrete with that example, it pushes us to say, actually, no, I don't want to work with everybody that's here. Great. Who are you going to weed out? Who do you not want to stay in the stadium? Not because they're not great people, but because they're not a fit for what it is that you're interested in doing. All right. So the stadium question is just a great tool that you can reference and come back to over and over again. And that was posted here. Imagine a room full of 10,000 people. What questions would you ask to narrow it down to 100? What questions would you ask to narrow it down to 1,000? I don't know if you've read this, but Seth Godin talks a lot about this idea of we only need 1,000 true fans. 1,000, which might feel big. I get it. It feels big to me, but it's also not infinite. It's not everybody. It's not all the people. It's actually quite a small subset. It gives you permission to get really specific about what you are most lit up by, what journey you're inspired to help people on, etc. So that was one of the first Post-its. Let's see what else we got. Practice being seen and becoming known and showing up. If you are not doing this yet, it is an essential practice. When you are starting out as a coach, let's say you just got your certification, you're like, what now? How can you start showing up? Where can you be seen? How can you become known? And I will tell you, the way to do that is to start talking to people. We have to be willing to let people in on what it is that we're doing. And that doesn't mean we have to sugarcoat it. If you are a brand new coach and you're like, I don't have any experience yet, that's fine. You can still tell people, guess what? I just got certified in this new tool. I'm really excited about it. I want to practice. I'm ready to coach my ass off. Like, let me know if you ever want to have a session together. I would love to offer that in exchange for feedback. Period. That is becoming known. That is being seen. And it is edgy. And it's where things move forward. It is so much more impactful than spending time building a website. I promise. Here's another one. Try out the stadium test. Ask specific questions that weed people out. Then keep narrowing it down with further questions. Then interview those people. Great way to get started. How this one, and I did an Instagram reel about this. So I'll share my Instagram link below. I don't want to spend too much time here because I've already done it, but one of the coaches I was working with was trying to like fill this form out. There was this, I don't know if you've signed up for workshops or programs or free PDFs or downloads that are like, hey, fill this out and it will give you your big purpose or it will give you your mission statement. The problem with those forms is that they ask you questions that you can only uncover the answers to after you've done the work. So it becomes this mental hamster wheel because we start to think, well, oh, before I can start coaching, I first need to define my big purpose. But to define my big purpose, I need answers that I'm only going to get when I start coaching. So it becomes this like mental gymnasium and big source of confusion and overwhelm because we really believe that we need to do this thing before we can begin, but we can't do the thing until after we've begun. And so we identify that as being stuck. And I'm trying to help all of you coaches actually just start doing the stuff. Go out and start talking to people. Go out and start practicing your craft. And really just want to acknowledge that it is very messy at the beginning. It's very, very messy. And one of my favorite metaphors for this, I've used it a lot, again, is like, it's like trying to come up with your signature cookie. You've just come out of culinary school and you're like, I'd like to open a bakery someday, your coaching practice. But before I can open my bakery, I really want to home in on what is my signature cookie? What is my signature baking style? I don't want to open up a Dunkin' Donuts. I want to have my own unique bakery. Well, guess what? In order to find that out, you've got to do a lot of baking and you got to get a lot of people to try your stuff and give you feedback and make a lot of mistakes. But the messy part comes in finding people who are willing to taste test your stuff without being able to explain it yet. And the same is true for coaching. It's like you go out and say, hey, I want to practice well, what do we do together? What's your coaching all about? It's hard to explain it until you've done it. But it feels like, but I can't do it until I can explain it. And so I think the answer to that is to seek out people who want to experiment with you and be really upfront from the beginning that you're not exactly sure how it's going to go. Because there are people who love that. There are people who want to be early adopters. There are people who, when you say, I just got certified in this thing, I really want to practice it. Would you want to practice with me? And if you're excited, they're very likely going to go, yeah, sure, totally. Let's try one. And you're going to do a session and you're going to get their feedback and then you're going to get to do it again. It becomes like starting the machine is a little bit chaotic. And I want to acknowledge that because again, you're trying to say, hey, try this cookie. Well, what does it taste like? I'm not sure because it's one of my first cookies. Would you be willing to try it? And staying in that very creative, very like highly evolving quick space and being willing to pivot and play. I think if we embrace it, other people will be willing to join us on that journey. Let me give one more. Oh, this was just a phrase that someone said because as coaches, I think we spend a lot of time like making decisions. Well, what does it need to look like? It needs to be right. I need to do it correctly the first time. One of the coaches said, I want to alpha test this new idea. This was so good. She has a new coaching offer she wants to alpha test. And it's going to look like a 90-minute session. She has an idea of what she wants to do, but she's trying to figure out what is going to come after that session. But what do I do next? What am I going to do after the session? And this is a perfect example of being in this weird space of feeling like we have to have it all figured out before we've done it. Because if we don't have it all figured out, then no one will sign up for it. And you can see where that just turns into not doing anything because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the session until we've run the session. And if you lead with a lot of thinking strengths, if you're high analytical, high strategic, if you are a futuristic person, this might feel really challenging, right? Because your superpower is being able to lay out all the steps. And so when you come to this moment, this inflection point of, well, shoot, I don't know what step B is going to be until I've taken step A, maybe just recognizing that could cause a little bit of tension and giving yourself some grace and just moving into step A without knowing quite yet what's going to follow it, I think is the way to learn and to practice. And from the very beginning, be honest with people that that's what's going to happen. That's why it's an alpha test. Alpha tests aren't in beta. They're not pilots. They are truly your first experiments. And so you don't have to polish it up. You got to just be like honest. Like, I want to use words like that. I want to try something out. I'm running an experiment. I'm not exactly sure what step 2 is going to be, but here's step 1. Does anyone want to take it with me in exchange for your feedback? I know this is going to be really great. Speak that way, because you're going to draw people in who want to have those early experiences with you. That's what I've got. I'd love to know what you're hearing in this. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not a part of Misfit to Maverick, share your comments down below. What questions do you have? How can I help you in some way? And if you want support like this, consider joining Misfit to Maverick. You get this kind of one-on-one tailored support every week. All of these ideas came out of individual coaches bringing their questions to the open mentorship calls on Tuesday. And if you're a part of Misfit to Maverick, hi, think you're awesome. Feel free to share follow-up questions, insights in the comments below. Bring your follow-up questions to next Tuesday's call, and I'm happy to help you just continue moving your work forward in your unique way. I'll see you again soon, everybody. Be well.